Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, following the second meeting of the Joint Presidential Transition Team Steering Committee, we are very pleased to welcome you all to a very important joint press conference of the JPTT. The purpose of this press conference is to inform, as we indicated in the communication, the people of Liberia on the current status of the transition process. Today's meeting was presided over by His Excellency Ambassador Maxwell Kemeya, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the co-chair designated by the Cuban President, alongside the Vice President-elect of the Republic of Liberia, Senator Jeremiah Kpankun, who is also co-chair designated for the President-elect of the Republic of Liberia. Currently, the press conference will be presided over by His Excellency Ambassador Maxwell Kemeya, and of course, Councillor Anthony Kofi Wu, who is, I think, in the stead of the co-chair destiny, that is the Vice President-elect of the Republic of Liberia, to preview the media and the public about the status and key issues that we have built consensus on. At the back here, you have members and officials of the JPTT from both the incoming government and the Cuban administration. This is to indicate to you that both sides are working very harmoniously. So without much ado, I will now refer to the table, the high table, to begin giving you information on the key issues that we've been able to build consensus on and some of the policy actions that need to be taken. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, and I acknowledge my friend and colleague, Honorable Attorney Samuel Kofi Wu, as Mr. Twer rightly stated, acting in the stead of the Vice President-elect, Honorable Jeremiah Kpankun, who understandably, at the conclusion of the meeting, had to hasten to take up another pressing engagement relating to the incoming administration. Let me first express our profound thanks and appreciation to our respective principals. For me, His Excellency Dr. George Manawia, President of the Republic of Liberia, for the confidence reposed in me to lead, coordinate, and oversee activities as it relates to the JPTT from the end of the incumbent administration, and to co-chair meetings, a mandate pursuant to which we co-chair the meeting here today. I'd like to appreciate our colleagues from the incoming administration, as I indicated earlier this morning in my opening remarks, for the exemplary level of cordiality and mutuality of respect and shared vision being exhibited as it relates to this transition. We had a very good meeting with representations from the incoming administration and the incumbent respectively. And I must say that I am extremely pleased with the level of representation, participation, or on the overall deliberations as it relates to the transition. And what is of most important to me, that these participations were indeed convincingly of the semblance of selflessness, taking the interest of Liberia and the Liberian people at the core. A lot has been taking place with respect to the JPTT. Even in the absence of convening JPTT meeting, the way it is structured, the joint secretariat of the JPTT is at work. And I can tell you at work 24/7, headed by Director General Jordan Sulonte, and then from the incoming, co-headed by Mr. Amos Toy, as you listen to the intro with respect to this, all speaking volume as it relates to our unanimity of purpose in ensuring that we have a smooth, effective, and efficient transition, which I must tell you from the end of His Excellency President Dr. Weah is irreversible, irrevocable. We are on a trajectory of transition in our country towards an unprecedented level as envisioned by His Excellency President Dr. Weah. Action points reached during our meeting. The JPTT resolved unanimously that come Monday next week, the inauguration, the joint inauguration committee will present the comprehensive budget of the ensuing inauguration. And that budget will take into consideration all of the activities with respect to the inauguration, from pre-inauguration, the activities, up to post-inauguration, taking into consideration invitations, number of invited guests. So all of that will be handled. We also resolved and mandated the General Steering Committee of the inauguration to convene in a meeting on Monday at 11 o'clock in this Caesar Sardenas auditorium for the purpose of receiving the comprehensive budget from the committee and deliberating on this budget with the focus of bringing our recommendations to submit to the JPTT. In light of that, the JPTT that convened today will convene its next meeting on Wednesday, December 20, next week, for the purpose of actively going into and finalizing to a large extent the nature and scope as it relates to activities of the inauguration as it is. We also resolved today as JPTT, as part of the solemn activities of the inauguration, to launch the JPTT General Cleanup Campaign, to launch the JPTT General Cleanup Campaign with the aim of further consolidating efforts geared towards the ongoing cleanliness of the city and other parts within our Republic of Liberia. We did receive, as an incumbent administration, we did receive 2 communications from His Excellency Ambassador Joseph Newman Boakai Sr., President-elect of the Republic of Liberia, for the purpose of delivery to His Excellency Dr. George Manneh Weah, President of the Republic of Liberia. Representing the President and the rest of my colleagues representing the incumbent administration, we have assured the incoming administration that the 2 communications delivered will be further delivered to His Excellency President Dr. Weah, who they are addressed to, and it is within his purview to take those communications and the content therein and make determination as it relates to them. I am sure very much that no media person will ask me as to the content, because the communications were addressed to the President. I am not the President. I won't pretend to be the President. And so these communications will be delivered. It is within the purview of the Presidency to determine what happens to those communications. But those communications are nothing for panic. They are nothing. They are all in the spirit, in the direction of our continual collaboration, coordination as it relates to the transition. The incoming administration also informed the meeting today that the provision as enshrined in the Executive Order 123 establishing the Joint Presidential Transition Team, which indicated that those members of the Joint Presidential Transition Team who are not benefiting through their respective public services from salaries or remunerations or compensation, whatever nomenclature we may add, that the JPTT through executive order is to work out modalities for them to get compensation. The incoming administration has indicated to us that they don't deem it expedient to receive any compensation, as they are okay, and as such they informed us officially that they will not be receiving any compensation for services being rendered as members of the JPTT. We also did respond to them that, well, we take cognizance of their information to us or their notice to us, and that we will include that, as has been included already, in the briefing notes to be provided to our principal, as it is. We believe it is within their rights and their purview, not to do. Though the incumbent administration has been in ever readiness to comply fully in that premise to them as it relates to remuneration. We also received a request or notification, if I may say it that way, from the incoming administration that His Excellency, the President-elect, Ambassador Joseph Newman Boakai Sr., and the Honorable Vice President-elect, Honorable Jeremiah Kpankun, they both, along with the incoming administration, that they have resolved to propose to the incumbent administration that the inauguration venue be the Capitol building, that the inauguration venue be the Capitol building. We did receive that notification in good faith and being cognizant of the reality of the souls of our authority. We informed them that we will also pass that on. We will accordingly bring that recommendation of theirs to the attention of our principal, His Excellency President Dr. Weah, and the current administration. And based on the appropriate feedback, we will then inform our dear colleagues as to what has been said. We also received a document outlining clusters in the description of the incoming administration, clusters which has to do with sectors, different sectors. We received that document from the incoming administration. It is not strange that that document came, because they did inform us during our last JPTT meeting that they were going to work on the cluster and make it available to us at this point during our meeting. And they've indeed lived up to that. They made it available to us. So we did receive it, and not only the clusters, but the clusters with the respective cluster leads from their end. And that cluster, the aim and objective of that is for strategic engagement between the incoming administration, represented by the different cluster leads, and the incumbent administration. For instance, if you have a lead on economic governance, or you have a lead on foreign affairs cluster from the incoming administration, the intent and purpose is that such lead and his or her team will then strategic manner and form engage with the incumbent, say for instance the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and team from the ministry, with respect to the nature and scope of activities or operations within any one ministry or an agency falling within such a cluster. So we received that, and we are also going to further pass it on to the incumbent administration under the astute leadership of His Excellency President Dr. Weah. That response, depending on, will then move on. We have, to a large extent, and to the best of the retentive memory of ours, outlined what we've gone through today, which we think made it important for us to pass it on to you. We will be followed by comments from the Honorable Samuel Kofi Woods, and we want to assure you, the members of the Fourth Estate and the public, we have also resolved to keep the media and the public updated on activities of the JPTT where it becomes necessary and relevant from the end of the JPTT. I'd like to thank you, the members of the Fourth Estate, a group that we continue to say has an indispensable role, in the true sense of the word, indispensable in the nation building of our country, and particularly our newly formed by the chief architect of our newly formed democracy, His Excellency Dr. George Manneh. We are President of the Republic of Liberia. Thank you very much. And dear brother, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Kimia. It's such a pleasure and honor and privilege working along with you. You all recall on November 24th this year, an inaugural meeting was convened by the two co-chairpersons of the Joint Presidential Transitional Team. The person of President George Manneh and President-elect Joseph Yuma Waka. At that meeting, President-elect Waka emphasized a commitment to smooth and peaceful transition. He heralded the phenomenal development in Liberia relating to the democratic entitlement of the Liberian people. He remains committed to that. Today, this meeting represents a testimony to that commitment. Honorable Senator Vice President-elect Jeremiah Kwankun was part of these deliberations, but had to leave because of some urgent engagements. I have been given a responsibility to work along with Honorable Kimenya to ensure that we have the logical conclusion and consensus necessary to continue to accelerate our transition. It is important to state very clearly that there are a number of things that Honorable Kimenya mentioned, but it's important to refer to them again. And I'd like to restate that on the issue of compensation and honorarium, we're very clear that with the dire need and strength of the Liberian people, the suffering and difficulties we continue to confront, it is important that from our end, we volunteer our commitment and our services in this regard. We will receive no compensation. I want to repeat that because it's very important. The second thing is that Honorable Waka, in writing that letter, wrote a second letter recommending some important executive actions that need to be taken by the current government. I will not disclose the details of those actions because the letter has not reached President Weah's desk. However, it is important to reassure the public that those recommendations are intended to safeguard the public interest and the public trust. That they are intended to ensure that as this transition proceeds, there are certain measures to be taken to guarantee that people's trust, people's resources will be protected at all times. We have the assurance from Honorable Kimanya and the team that will be duly conveyed. We also have the assurance that given the urgency of that request, that actions will be taken in that regard. And I want to thank him very much for that. A few days ago, you were informed that Honorable Miata Formule was announced as the chair from our side to lead the inauguration and to collaborate with the team from the government side in ensuring that we have an inauguration. The president-elect has emphasized that he will support and he will encourage a modest, very modest inauguration program. One that will reflect his simplicity, his aspiration for the Liberian people, and his commitment to ensure that we think Liberia, we love Liberia, and we build Liberia as we should. So that is very important for all of us to know. And I think Honorable Kimian did mention that this year the Capitol building, next year, the inauguration will take place at the Capitol building as the venue. And so, I want to end on that note, but I want to thank all of our colleagues who joined us in this meeting. A very fruitful meeting. We want to show the public that while people might think that it is only the steering committee that convenes for work to be done, we have a very active and robust joint secretariat that has been acting and working on a daily basis to reach us this far. They will keep working, the various clusters will keep working, and they will keep informing the public of developments, processes, procedures, consensus, and other activities of this transition. We want all of you to remain part of this commitment to a peaceful transition. All Liberians have invested in this process, and there's a motive, there's an intent, and a reason for that investment. We intend to hold true to that commitment and that trust. I want to say thank you very much. I want to thank Kimia. I also want to thank President Weah for his continuous commitment to this process. And we want to assure all Liberians that we remain committed. President-elect Boyka remains committed to this process and will continue to remain engaged until we are able to reach January 22nd and unveil a new government to Liberia. Thank you very much.
Let me quickly point out on the, and thank you, my dear brother, Honorable Woods, on the communications that are received to be passed on to His Excellency President Dr. Weah, which were addressed to the President. My commitment and response is that I will certainly ensure that the communications are delivered to His Excellency the President. As to actions in relation to the contents therein, that is outside of my purview, and it is strictly left to His Excellency President Dr. George Manneh Weah. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, distinguished members of the media. Like the minister indicated to you, we will continue to give you update, particularly when it comes to those two communications. We, as he had regularly so indicated, we're looking forward to a feedback from the presidency. But you can be very assured that the content therein will be certainly disclosed to the public, and appropriate actions and steps will be taken. The other thing I also want to say very briefly is that a number of you know that President Weah is still president. He remains president for Liberia until May Day, January 22nd. So we are very glad that as incoming administration, we continue to receive cooperation and working with them harmoniously to make sure that there is this quote-unquote seamless and very smooth transition of power from President George Weah to President-elect Joseph Imam Boakai. So be assured, members of the media, we will continue to give you updates. As a matter of fact, they will prepare what we call bulletins, or fact sheets on the different activities that the transition teams will be involved with, so that you members of the media can continue to inform and entertain the people of Liberia on the status of the transition. Once again, we want to say thank you so very much, except if you have any very specific question to ask, we'll give you, would allow 2 questions, and thereafter we disperse from here. So the man from Small FM.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I'm Sylvester Churukle, work for School Network. Regardless of the content of those letters, from whom these letters are coming from?
Well, one of the very important things in your very good field is listening. The letters, as I indicated clearly, came from His Excellency Ambassador Joseph Newman Boakai Sr., President-elect of the Republic of Liberia, and addressed to His Excellency Dr. George Weah, President of the Republic of Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one more. Okay.
Okay,
Very brief.
So I'm Joseph Philip, right for the New Democrat newspaper. Just talk about the long campaign, peanut campaign, the JPTT peanut campaign that will be launched. I want to know when this campaign will be launched and what are the places will be targeted for this time.
If you listen to me, we said the JPTT resolved to launch the JPTT cleanup campaign aimed at further consolidating the ongoing cleanup exercise, not only in Monrovia or Monserrado County, but across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. God bless you.
Focus on Liberia. We are coming to you from the ground floor of the Foreign Affairs Ministry here, where the JPTT is host press conference updating the Liberian people of the 2024 January 27th inauguration of the President-elect Joseph Boakai. My name is Gwendolyn Guerrero. Thanks for watching, and it's bye-bye from my end.